Find the roots of this equation by factoring. If I'm trying to find the root values of this that make it true, I'm going to get everything on one side and make it so that it equals to 0, and then I'll go ahead and use my factoring techniques and the zero product property. So I'm going to begin by adding 5x to both sides. And I'm also going to, I'll just write that. That's 7x squared plus 10x. And I'm also going to subtract 8 from both sides. I'll just write minus 8, minus 8. Minus 8 equals 0. So let's go ahead and set this up and factor it. Again, my AC method of factoring, not mine, but Linda Davis. I've got 7 times 8, which is the 56. So I've got negative 56. More useful for me is writing this as in its prime factored form. 8 is 222, and then I've got my factor of 7. And don't forget, sometimes we need to use the factor of 1. It's a possibility. And in this case, one of those two factors is going to have to be negative, right? One will be negative and one will be positive. When I add them together, I have to get a sum of positive 10. So if I'm looking at these, it doesn't take long, and I see that I'm going to be playing with 14 and the 4, right? 14 and 4. And I want this to be a positive 14 and a negative 4, because 4 plus 14, negative 4 plus 14 is positive 10, and the product of 4 and negative 14 is negative 56. Now, for this problem, a is not 1, so I'm not finished. I need to rewrite this using factoring by grouping. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room by writing some things over here, but I'll start with the 7x squared. And the next thing that we do is we're just going to break up this middle term using the two values that we discovered over here. So instead of writing plus 10x, I'm going to write minus 4x. And then I'm going to write plus 14x. And plus 14x. And then I've got the negative 8 still, and that equals 0. So if you look, all I've done is I've just transformed this positive 10x into minus 4x plus 14x. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use factoring by grouping. I'm going to look at I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor from the first two terms and the second two terms. In the first two terms, I only have a value of x that they have in common. So I'm going to factor out the x, and I'm left with 7x minus 4. For my next two terms, I've got 14 and 8. And the only common factor that 14 and 8 have is 2. So I'm going to be factoring out a 2. When I take out the factor of 2, I have a 7x minus 4. And you can see at this point that I have a beautiful common binomial factor of 7x minus 4. So we write the 7x minus 4 out front. And when I factor that out in front, what I'm left with an x, and I'm left with a plus 2, x plus 2. So in this factored form, then I can see what my the roots of this equation are. One of them is pretty quick, right? X plus 2 equals 0. Therefore, x has to equal negative 2. So negative 2 is one of my roots. The other root is 7x minus 4 must equal 0. Therefore, 7x equals positive 4. And x would have to equal 4/7. So my two roots of this equation are 4/7 and negative 2.